Welcome, aspirants. Today, we're diving into a topic that's absolutely critical, not just for the Indian economy, but for your UPSC preparation. We're talking about the 2026 monsoon forecast and the big El Nino threat that's hanging over it. Understanding what's really at stake here is going to be key. That's so true. That phrase isn't just a poetic saying, is it? It's a hard economic reality for India. And this year, especially with a potential El Nino on the horizon, this forecast is more than just a weather report. It's a critical piece of the puzzle for every aspirant. So let's break it down. All right, so here's how we're going to tackle this. First, we'll look at the actual forecast. Then we'll decode El Nino. After that, we'll see what other forces might be at play. And most importantly, we'll link it all back to your UPSC syllabus and give you some solid pointers for your mains and interview. Okay, let's get straight to it. First up, what exactly has the IMD, the India Meteorological Department, predicted? And this is a really big deal. I mean, think about it. For the first time in 11 years, the IMD has officially come out and said, we're looking at a below normal monsoon. The last time they made a call like this was way back in 2015, and we all remember what happened then. It was one of our worst drought years. So you can see that history alone really raises the stakes here. So the number they've put out is 92%. 92% of the long period average. It sounds very specific, doesn't it? But what does 92% actually mean? Right, and this is a concept you absolutely have to know for prelims. The LPA is basically our baseline. It's the average rainfall India has received over the last 50 years, which right now is about 87 centimeters. So when the IMD says 92%, they mean 92% of that 87 centimeter. And just for context, anything below 96% is officially below normal, and if it drops below 90%, we're talking about a deficient monsoon or a drought. So the big question is, why? Why the below normal forecast? Well, the main culprit, according to the IMD, is the very high chance that El Nino conditions will develop. Okay, aspirants, pay close attention here. For your general studies answers, this is the definition you want to use. Simply put, El Nino is this unusual warming of the Pacific Ocean, thousands of miles away, but it has this powerful, disruptive effect on global weather. And for India, it typically means weaker monsoon rains. The worry is that it's expected to show up right in the middle of our monsoon. And history shows us this isn't just a theory. The link is incredibly strong. Just look at the data. 2002, 2009, 2015, every single one of them was an El Nino year, and every single one was a severe drought year for India. In fact, if you go back to 1960, more often than not, when El Nino appears, our monsoon suffers. The track record is, well, it's pretty clear. But here's the thing, and this is crucial for a top-scoring mains answer. Is El Nino the only thing that matters? Not at all. Climate is a super complex system. There are other forces out there, other players on the field that can either make things worse or, and this is important, actually help counter El Nino's negative pull. Exactly right. It's like a climatic tug-of-war. In one corner, you have El Nino pulling things in a negative direction. But in the other corner, we have a couple of potential positive factors that could pull back. One is something called a positive Indian Ocean dipole, or IOD, which tends to bring more rain to our part of the world. The other is having less snow cover up in the northern hemisphere, which also helps strengthen our monsoon. And you don't have to take our word for it. Here's a quote from the head of the IMD himself, Mr. Mohapatra, basically saying the exact same thing. So for your answers, this is the key. It's all about the interplay, the battle between these different forces. It's not a simple 1 + 1 = 2 situation. Avoid that El Nino means drought, full stop, kind of thinking. That's too simplistic. Okay, let's bring this all back to the exam hall. This is the so what part. Why does this matter for your GS Paper 3? Because the monsoon isn't just a geography topic. It's about the economy, it's about society, it's about everything. Look at this. A weak monsoon creates a domino effect. It hits agriculture, right? That means lower productivity for kharif crops, which hits farmer incomes. When rural incomes fall, rural demand across the entire economy slumps. Less food production can lead to food inflation. It puts a huge strain on our buffer stocks and the public distribution system. And of course, it becomes a major issue for disaster management. You have to connect these dots in your answers. All right, let's get down to brass tacks. How do you take all this knowledge and turn it into a high-scoring answer for your mains or a confident response in your interview? So this is a very realistic mains question you could face.
Look at the key directive here. Critically analyze. That's your cue. It's not just asking you to list things. It wants you to weigh them. You have to talk about the primary factor, El Niño, but then you absolutely must bring in the secondary counterbalancing factors like the IOD. Only after that should you get into the socioeconomic impact.
And here is your step-by-step guide to structuring that answer. It's a perfect framework. Start with the what, the IMD's forecast. Then explain the why, El Niño's role, backed by some historical data. Step 3 is where you show your analytical depth by discussing the counterbalancing forces. And finally, you conclude by tying it all together with a balanced look at the socioeconomic impacts, from the farm to the wider economy. Now, for the interview, the game changes a bit. They'll want to see your policy-level thinking. They might ask you something like this, something that looks beyond the immediate crisis. They're testing your ability to think about long-term solutions. So you need to be ready to talk about things like micro-irrigation, crop insurance, diversification. Basically, how do we make our agriculture monsoon-proof in the long run? So, if there's one thing you take away from this entire discussion, let it be this. Nothing is set in stone. The monsoon's final outcome is not a simple, foregone conclusion. It's the result of a complex dance between competing climatic forces. And your ability to explain that complexity, that nuance, well, that's what will make your answer truly stand out. And to leave you with something to chew on, here's a question for you. If you could push for just one policy, what would be the single most effective thing we could do to protect our farmers from the ups and downs of the monsoon? Really think about that. Why that one policy over all others? Wrestling with questions like this is exactly the kind of mental exercise that gets you ready for UPSC. All the very best.